The bullet didn't hurt as much as the betrayal. It slammed into my chest like a freight train derailing in slow motion, hot metal tearing through flesh and bone. But the real agony was the smirk on my father's face as he pulled the trigger, his own daughter, bleeding out on the cold garage floor of our family home in suburban Virginia. All because I'd uncovered his dirty little secret. "You always were a disappointment." "Serenity," he whispered, his voice steady as the lies he'd spun for decades. And then everything went black. The world tilting into that endless void where regrets echo like thunder. But death isn't the end. It's just the universe's cruelest reset button. And when I gasped awake in my old twin bed, 17 again, staring at the faded Navy recruitment poster on my wall from 2018, I fucking knew, this was my second chance to make him pay. That first breath back in my body felt like surfacing from a drowning pool. Lungs burning, heart jackhammering against ribs that shouldn't still ache from a wound that hadn't happened yet. I bolted upright, sheets tangled around my legs. The digital clock on my nightstand blinking 6:47 a.m. in that god-awful red glow, the exact morning after high school graduation. When Dad would corner me in the kitchen with his beer breath and that patronizing laugh, telling me enlisting in the Navy was a phase for girls who couldn't hack college. Back then, I'd swallowed it, eyes down, the fists clenched under the table. Because that's what you do when your father's the king of the castle and you're just the peasant scrubbing the moat. But not this time. This time, the rage simmered low and lethal. A pilot light ignited by the memory of his finger on the trigger 8 years from now, when I'd be a decorated lieutenant commander, home on leave, and stumble onto the truth. Dad wasn't just a washed-up mechanic embezzling from the VFW. He was running guns for a cartel, using my own security clearance as cover. And when I confronted him, he chose a .38 over family loyalty. I swung my legs over the bed, bare feet hitting the worn carpet that smelled faintly of mothballs and regret, and stared at my reflection in the vanity mirror, 17-year-old me. All gangly limbs and defiant blue eyes under a mop of chestnut hair I hadn't yet learned to tame into a regulation bun. The scar from that future bullet was gone, but the phantom itch lingered, a reminder that this body, this life, was mine to weaponize. Downstairs, I could hear Mom humming off-key to some country station on the radio, flipping pancakes like it was any other Saturday, oblivious to the monster she slept next to. She'd always been the buffer, the one who'd pat my hand and say, "Your father's just stressed. Honey, give him time." Time. I'd given him 8 years last go-round, time enough to build an empire on lies that ended with me in a body bag, ruled a tragic suicide by the local PD he had in his pocket. No more. Today, I'd start the unraveling, thread by careful thread, until he was the one choking on the noose he'd woven. Breakfast was a minefield, as predicted. Dad lumbered in at 7 sharp, his guts straining against a grease-stained Ford T, newspaper tucked under one arm like a shield. He dropped into his chair with a grunt, eyes flicking to me over the sports section, already scanning box scores for the Nats game, as if the world revolved around his fantasies of glory days he'd never had. "Morning, kiddo," he said, voice gravelly from the pack-a-day habit that would kill him slow if I didn't speed it up. Mom slid a plate his way, eggs over easy, bacon crisp just how he liked, and I watched her do it with a twist in my gut, not hate. Exactly. But pity laced with fury. She deserved better than this charade. I waited until he'd shoveled in half his meal before dropping the bomb. "I'm enlisting, Dad." Navy. Flight school track. The words hung there, casual as coffee refills, But I saw the flicker in his eyes, the same one from the garage. That calculating glint that said opportunity more than pride. He chewed slower, fork pausing midair, then barked a laugh that echoed off the Formica cabinets. Navy? What? You gonna play dress up in whites and salute the flag while flipping burgers on a carrier? Come on. Rennie, college first. Get a real degree. Something useful. This house ain't big enough for dreamers. Rennie. The nickname he'd given me as a kid, back when he'd hoist me on his shoulders at air shows, pointing at F-18s ripping the sky and promising we'd fly together someday. Lies. All of it. Built on a foundation of resentment because Mom had chosen me over his gambling debts. Because I was the reminder of his failures. Last life. I'd folded under that laugh, mumbled something about thinking it over, and spent the next decade proving him wrong in silence, top of my class at Pensacola. Wings pinned at 22. Deployments to the Gulf that left me with nightmares but no apologies from him. This time, I met his gaze, fork scraping my plate like nails on chalkboard. It's not a dream, Dad. It's a contract. Signed it last week at the recruiters. Ship dates in September. The table went dead quiet. Mom's spatula clattering into the sink. His face purpled. Not with pride but possession. Like I'd stolen something vital. You little shit. We didn't raise you to throw your life away on some jarhead fantasy. Your brother's got law school lined up. Real future. You're gonna end up some sailor's punchline. Brother. Jake. The golden child. 5 years older. Already interning at Dad's buddy's firm. Blind to the shadows Dad cast. Jake. Who'd testify at my suicide, inquest that I'd been unstable, parroting lines fed by the man who'd pulled the trigger. I pushed back from the table. Chair legs screeching like a warning siren. Maybe I'm throwing it away. But it's mine to throw. And I walked out. Pulse thundering. The first brick in the wall I'd built around his empire. Outside. The summer air was thick with jasmine and jet fuel dreams. Andrews Air Force Base wasn't far. A constant hum on the horizon that had always called to me. This was Virginia. Heart of the military machine, where bases dotted the landscape like stars in a war-torn sky. And I was done being collateral damage. Enlistment day came faster than a Mach 1 pass. The recruiter's office in Alexandria, a fluorescent-lit bunker of posters and promise. I stood there in jeans and a faded Metallica tee, 17 and forged in fire from a future I refused to repeat, signing my name, Serenity Hayes, with a flourish that felt like carving my soul into stone. The petty officer, a grizzled vet named Ramirez with tattoos snaking up his neck, grinned like he'd just won the lottery. Hayes. Huh? Got that pilot fire in your eyes. We'll get you in the air. Kid. He didn't know the half of it. I wasn't just chasing wings. I was arming myself, gathering intel on every connection Dad had buried in his side hustles, the VFW poker nights that masked shipments, the garage buddies who moonlighted as mules. Basic at Great Lakes was a blur of reveille screams and salt lick sweat, but I thrived in the grind, my reborn mind a steel trap snapping shut on weaknesses. The other recruits, kids from trailer parks and cul-de-sacs, all chasing escape, saw me as the quiet one, the girl who quoted flight manuals like scripture. But at night, in the rack, I'd replay the garage scene, the acrid bite of gunpowder, Dad's whisper twisting like a knife. Disappointment. I'd clench my fists until nails drew blood, whispering back, "Not anymore." By A school in Pensacola, the Florida sun baking my skin to leather, I'd started the quiet war. Letters home were sparse. Sanitized, training's tough. But I'm good. Miss you. Bullshit. I hacked Dad's email from a library computer, perks of a photographic memory from OCS last life. Tracing breadcrumbs, invoices to shell companies in Norfolk, auto parts that screamed black market. He was deeper in than before, cartel ties tightening like a noose, using Jake's law ambitions as unwitting cover. Mom's replies came in cheery bursts, so proud. Honey, Dad says fly safe. Lies she told herself. The betrayal deepened when Jake visited during my first leave, pulling up in his shiny Civic. All Ivy League polish and false fraternal warmth. We met at a dive bar off base. Neon buzzing go navy over sticky tables. And he slid into the booth with that salesman's smile. Sis. Dad's pissed. But hey, wings look good on you. Just don't go all Top Gun on us. I sipped my Coke, watching him like prey, remembering how he'd signed off on the cover-up, how his signature graced the falsified reports. What's Dad into these days?
Jake?
Garage booming. He laughed.
Too quick.
Same old. Fixing beaters for vets. Why? I leaned in, voice low. Because I hear things. Shipments. Offshore. His eyes darted. Adam's apple bobbing. You're paranoid.
Ren.
Lay off the jet fuel. But I saw it, the crack in the facade. The family's secret festering like an untreated wound. That night, I emailed an anonymous tip to IC, vague enough to spook but not sting. Let the hounds bay. I'd direct the hunt. Primary flight training was where the real fire ignited. Strapped into a T-6 Texan, instructor yelling over the roar, I gripped the stick like it was Dad's throat, pulling GS that pressed my soul flat. The sky was freedom, vast and unforgiving, a canvas for the storm I'd paint. Instructors called me a natural. Haze has ice in her veins, but they didn't know it was forged in hellfire. Between sorties, I'd pore over manifests, cross-referencing Dad's business with port logs. The secret? He'd started small, fencing stolen tools. But ambition grew teeth. By my mid-20s last life, he was laundering cartel cash through fake vet charities, my deployments providing the perfect alibi, serenities overseas. Won't notice. Controversy brewed early. During a solo cross-country, I buzzed low over home. Not 600 yet, but close enough to rattle windows. Mom texted. Was that you? Dad's fuming. Good. Let him stew. My decisions turned heads. I reported a chief for skimming flight hours, earning a rep as a rat but saving my wingman from a washout. You're playing with fire. Haze, he snarled in debrief. Nah, I shot back. I'm the goddamn flame. By Wings Ceremony. 22 and unbreakable. The noose tightened. Jake's wedding invite arrived, to some debutante from Richmond. Dad footing the bill with dirty money. I RSVP'd yes. Dress, white starched, medals gleaming like accusations. The reception was a powder keg, Virginia vineyard. Fairy lights strung over tables groaning with crab cakes and Chardonnay. Dad clapped me on the back too hard. Breath sour. Look at you. Fly girl. Still think this beats a desk job. His eyes lingered on my bars. Calculating. Last life. That's when he'd first approached. Hypothetical favors for old buddies. I smiled. Clinking glasses. Beats being grounded. Dad. Later. By the gazebo. I cornered him. Wine loosening tongues. Heard about the Norfolk deal. Auto parts. Right? Funny how they match cartel manifests. He froze. Cigar ash tumbling. What the hell? Ren? Spying on your old man? I leaned closer. Voice a whisper blade. Family first. Remember? Or is that just for photos? The slap came fast. Hidden by shadows, palm stinging my cheek. Guests oblivious. Ungrateful bitch, he hissed. You have no idea. But I did. Every buried lie. Every midnight call to south of the border ghosts. Mom fluttered over later. Ice pack in hand. He didn't mean it. Honey. Stress. I hugged her tight. Tasting salt, tears, or blood. Didn't matter. I know.
Mom.
I know everything. That night, I filed the first real report, detailed, sourced, to NCIS. Not for arrest yet. For fear. Let it leak slow. Poison the well. Dad's calls ramped up. Voicemails laced with venom. Come home.
We talk.
Family sticks together. Irony. Thy name is Hayes. The years blurred into afterburners. F/A. 18 Hornet quals off Virginia Beach. Salt spray and sonic booms my therapy. Deployments to the Med. Dodging SAMs in Syria. Each mission a brick in my fortress. Dad's empire cracked anonymous audits. A VFW buddy flipping for immunity, but he slithered free. Always one step ahead. Jake's law degree now a shield of briefs and loopholes. Betrayal layered like sedimentary rock. Jake. During a port call in Bahrain. Confessed over sat phone static. Dad's in deep. Sis. Says if you back off, there's money in it for you. Real money. My laugh echoed in the ready room. Tell him I'm not for sale. Not anymore. The controversy peaked at 28. My squadron's air show demo over DC. Blue Angels caliber. Precision that turned crowds to specks. I pushed for a low-altitude heritage flight. Controversial as hell. Regs bent. Brass sweating liability. Hayes. You'll get us all court-martialed. My CO growled. But I flew it anyway. Four-ship formation thundering past monuments at 500 feet. The mall a blur below. It was a statement. Power from above. Untouchable. Whispers followed. Hayes is reckless. Ambitious bitch.
Good.
Let them talk. It drowned out Dad's pleas. Home on leave. 30 and lethal. The garage waited like a trap. Mom's cancer had bloomed quiet last life. I'd been too deployed to notice, this time. I funneled savings into her treatments, watching her fade anyway. Dad too busy for chemo runs. Jake's firm? Now cartel counsel in all but name. The secret I'd buried deepest. Dad hadn't just killed me for stumbling on guns. He'd framed me for the leaks. Planting evidence in my quarters, stolen docs pinned on the disgruntled pilot. My suicide note? Forged in his chicken scratch. I confronted them in the kitchen. Not garage, smarter this time. Rain-lashed windows. Thunder rumbling like incoming. Dad at the table. Jake pacing. Mom's photo smiling from the mantel. It's over, I said, voice steel. NCIS has the manifests. Your mules are singing.
Jake.
Your bar license? Gone by morning. Dad's face crumpled. Then hardened, the mask slipping. You think you're better? Little girl playing hero? I built this for us. Jake lunged, but I sidestepped. Navy hand to hand, turning him into a heap. Controversial? Hell yes, assaulting your brother in the family home. But self-defense in a snake pit. The gun came out anyway. Dad's .38 from the junk drawer, trembling in his grip. You ruined everything. Serenity. Just like always. Echoes of the end. But this time, I was ready, pepper spray from my purse, a cloud that blinded him, Jake coughing on the floor. I zip-tied them with flight line cordage from my bag. Called it in. Officer needs assistance. Domestic with firearms. Sirens wailed. Cuffs clicked. Dad's howl as they dragged him. You bitch. This is your fault. Trial was a circus. Richmond Federal Court. Headlines screaming vet's daughter turns whistleblower. Cartel bust rock suburbs. Controversy exploded. Was I hero or traitor? Exposing a father for glory? Pundits on Fox and CNN dissected it. My flyovers recast as calculated intimidation. Jake plea bargained. Disbarred and broken. Dad?
Life.
No parole. His empire ashes. Mom pass clean. Hospice peaceful. Whispering, I'm proud. Baby. Fly high.
But the twist?
In the visitor's booth. Months later. Dad grinned through plexiglass, not rage. But revelation. Knew it all along. Rennie. That scar on your chest? Faded. But I saw it in your eyes from day one. You're not my girl. You're a ghost. He glimpsed it, the rebirth flicker, and used it. His disappointment a ploy to push me harder. Forged the weapon that undid him. Was it revenge or destiny? As I walked out, Hornet waiting on the tarmac. I didn't care. The sky was mine. 600 miles per hour over his prison yard the next air show. A shadow that left him speechless. Staring up at the daughter who outflew his sins. The aftermath tasted like jet exhaust, bitter. Lingering. A high-octane haze that never quite cleared. With Dad rotting in Supermax and Jake slinging burgers at a Waffle House off I-95, the Hayes name became suburban folklore. The kind of tale whispered at block parties with equal parts awe and accusation. Serenity? Yeah. The one who ratted out her own blood. Flies just now. They say. Cold as ice. I leaned into it, letting the chills seep into my bones. Because warmth was for the living. And I'd died, once already. Back at NAS Oceana. My squadron mates slapped my back with wary respect. Whistleblower wings. They dubbed me half joke, half metal. But in the ready room, over lukewarm coffee and faded glory stories, the questions gnawed. Was it justice or just another layer of the family curse? I'd replay that kitchen showdown like a faulty HUD. Glitches in the feed, the way Dad's eyes lit with that unholy recognition. Calling me a ghost through the glass. Had he sensed it from the start? That first breakfast barb. Mocking my enlistment with a precision that felt too pointed.
Too prophetic.
In the quiet hours, throttled back on the flight line, watching Hornets taxi like predators, I'd wonder if my rebirth was his design, a cosmic joke where he played puppeteer, pushing me to the edge, so I'd leap and drag him down. Bullshit.
Probably.
Grief's a hell of a hallucinogen. And mine was laced with guilt, Mom's last breaths. Rasping forgive him, as if absolution was mine to give. I hadn't.
Couldn't.
But flying? That absolved everything. GS pinning doubt to the seat back. The world shrinking to a HUD pipper. The flyover became legend before it happened. Post-trial. With brass sniffing for PR gold, they greenlit a heritage demo over the Potomac, 6-ship. Full afterburner. A nod to the bust that protected the homeland. Controversial? You bet. Victims' rights groups howled about taunting the incarcerated, painting me as the vengeful harpy circling her prey. Dad's lawyers petitioned for an injunction, claiming psychological torment under the Eighth Amendment. Judge shot it down. No constitutional right to silence from the skies, but the headlines fed the fire. Daughter's sonic revenge, patriotism or cruelty. I clipped them to my locker. A collage of chaos. Reminders that controversy was currency in this game. Prep was brutal. A symphony of sims and sweat. My wingman, LT. Razor Ellis, a lanky Texan with a drawl that could charm snakes, eyed me sideways during briefings. Serenity. You sure about buzzing that yard? CO's twitchy. I flashed the grin I'd practiced in mirrors. All teeth and no mercy. It's 500 feet AGL. Razor. Regs compliant. Besides, it's not for him. It's for the show.
Lie.
It was all for him, the man who'd birthed me into betrayal, who'd smirked over my corpse like a victor in some twisted Oedipal chess. The route, skim DC. Landmarks. Then arc south over Lorton Correctional. Low and loud. A 600-knot ghost passing judgment. Night before. Insomnia hit like turbulence. I paced my off-base apartment in Virginia Beach, a sterile box of IKEA regrets and takeout boxes, scrolling Jake's sparse Facebook. He'd gone radio silent post-plea, but mutuals leaked crumbs. Working nights.
Kids on the way.
Rough. Pity stirred. Unbidden. A crack in the armor. Last life. He'd been the buffer. The one who'd cry at my funeral. Genuine tears amid the farce. This round, complicit. But blood's thicker than indictments. And in the witching hour, I almost called, "Hey,
Bro.
we good?" before slamming the phone down.
No.
Forgiveness was Mom's ghost. Not mine. Dawn broke humid. The kind of sticky Virginia morning that clings like accusation. Squadron ops buzzed with pre-flight frenzy, ground crews swarming the birds like ants on sugar. APU whines cutting the air. I suited up methodically, G-suit cinched, helmet tucked under arm, each ritual a ward against the what-ifs. CO pulled me aside in the hangar, face etched with that paternal worry all skippers wear like a crown. Haze. This ops gold for recruitment. But if it smells like payback. I nodded. Eyes locked. Copy.
Sir.
Clean pass. American as apple pie. He clapped my shoulder, unconvinced, and I taxied out, the hornet's growl vibrating through my spine like a promise.
Formation airborne.
We climbed east over the Chesapeake. Diamond tight. Sun gilding the canopy. Razor's voice crackled over ISIS. Lead. This is 2. You good. Solid. I keyed. But my pulse thrummed at redline. Memories bleeding into the now. The garage concrete cold under my dying palms. Dad's whisper a loop in my skull. Disappointment. Below. The sprawl unfolded. Endless. Burbs bleeding into bays. The life I'd clawed back from oblivion.
DC.
Rose sharp Capitol dome winking. Lincoln's shadow long, and the crowd erupted on frequency. Whoops from the mall bleachers. We snapped, inverted, pulling 6 GS. The world inverting to vertigo bliss. Then, the turn south. Lorton loomed, a gray scar on the green, razor wire glinting like teeth. Flight. Lead, doors closed, burners lit, throttles to zone 5. The jet surged, a beast unchained, 600 miles per hour stitching the sky. Earth blurred, highways to threads, trees to smudges, the prison yard a postage stamp of despair. I glimpsed them, tiny figures scattering like roaches, but one stood frozen, cap low, face upturned.
Dad.
Even at Mach speeds, I knew that stance, that defiant slouch. No words, no wave, just the roar. A sonic scalpel carving silence into his soul. We flashed past, afterburners painting the horizon crimson, and I hooped involuntary, tears streaking under my mask. Debrief was a blur of backslaps and brass accolades, textbook.
Haze.
Crowd ate it up. But in the locker room, stripping Nomex, the crash hit, euphoria curdling to hollow. Razor lingered, towel slung low. Saw his face on the feed.
Run.
Priceless. You get closure? I shrugged, zipping civvies. Closure's a myth.
Tex.
It's just. Quieter now. He nodded, wise beyond his ensign stripes. And we cracked beers on the pier, waves lapping like confessions. That night, sleep came freighted with dreams, not death, but flight endless. Unburdened, Mom waving from a cloud deck porch. Months later, the letters started. Not from Dad, solitary meant no stamps, but from inmates, scrawled missives on lined paper. Your old man's a ghost here.
Haze.
Talks to walls about a girl who flew away. Creepy.
Cathartic.
Jake resurfaced too. A hesitant DM. Saw the show. Ballsy. Kids born, boy and girl. Named the girl after Mom. I stared at the screen in a Starbucks off-base. Latte cooling. The world's most American dilemma churning. Reply or ghost. I typed congrats. Fly safed, neutral ground. A truce in pixels. The real twist uncoiled in a dingy lawyer's office in Norfolk. 6 months post-flyover. Jake's public defender, a chain-smoking harpy named Voss, slid a manila envelope across the desk. Your brother's appeal.
Contingent on testimony.
Says you knew about the guns before enlistment. Implicates you in the laundering. My laugh barked sharp, echoing off faded diplomas. Bullshit. I was 17. She lit another. Smoke curling like secrets. He claims otherwise. Forged docs. Timestamps backdated. Your dad? He planted them last life,
Before.
But Jake's desperate. Prison or plea. Last life. The slip hung there. Voss's eyes narrowing. Paranoia or pattern.
I snatched the file.
Flipping pages, familiar scrawl. Dad's handiwork. Looping accusations that mirrored the framed job that killed me. Tell Jake game's over. I'll counter with perjury, but driving back. Top down on the vet I'd bought with hazard pay. Wind whipping doubts. I saw it, the cycle. Dad hadn't sensed my rebirth. He'd engineered it. In a way, his mock's a forge, pushing me to Navy heights where I'd access the clearances he'd covet. The ghost comment?
Bluff.
Or buried truth. He confessed to a cellmate shrink. Ramblings of a daughter, back from the dead. Therapy notes subpoenaed in Jake's bid. Controversy reignited. Leaks to the Post. Whistleblower implicated in family fraud. Talk radio frothed. Calling me Frankenstein's monster. Stitching lies from corpse cloth. Squadron grounded me pending review. CO's face thunderous. Serenity. If this sticks. It didn't. Voss folded. Jake's appeal tanked. But the scar? Deeper than bullets. I flew again. Higher. Faster. But the sky felt crowded now. Ghosts and contrails. Dad's smirk in every cloud. 1 year out. The epiphany landed soft as a carrier trap. Revenge wasn't a win. Survival was. I rotated stateside. Instructor gig at Kingsville. Molding ensigns with the wisdom of 2 lives. Jake visited once. Gaunt in a polo that hung loose. Niece on his hip cooing Annie Run. We walked the flight line. Jets idling like patient beasts. He broke us all.
Sis, he muttered.
But you flew out. I ruffled the kid's hair. Something thawing.
Yeah.
And I'm still flying. Dad died in custody. Heart attack. Official word. No service. Just a pauper's plot. I buzzed it solo. 600 miles per hour eulogy. Leaving wildflowers in the slipstream. Speechless? He was dust. But me? I was alive, reborn. Unmocked. Winging toward whatever horizon called next. Teaching turned out to be the real revenge, slow burn. Intimate. Carving deeper than any low-level pass. At NAS Kingsville. Texas sun baking the runways to mirage shimmer. I stood before wide-eyed nuggets. Their flight suits crisp as new lies. And dispensed truths forged in fire. The stick ain't just control, it's commitment, I'd say. Strapping them into the T-45 Goshawk. That cigar-shaped beast that humbled egos faster than a flameout. They called me ghost behind my back, whispers of the flyover. The bust. The family implosion that made me tabloid fodder. I let it ride. Ghosts don't bleed. But the past clawed back. Insidious as humidity. Jake's texts trickled in, sporadic. Laced with that old fraternal plea. Therapy's helping. Kids ask about you. I'd reply in bursts. Walls thinning. Tell them, Auntie flies jets. Visit soon. Controversy lingered like exhaust. Though, instructor evals dinged me for intensity, brass murmuring about unresolved trauma. 1 eval's bored. A stone-faced full bird with a mustache like a broom leaned across the table. Hayes. Your record stellar. But that stunt over Lorton? Optics. I met his gaze. Voice even. Optics win wars.
Sir.
Results keep M. He grunted approval. But the subtext stung. Even heroes get leashed. The buried secret resurfaced in a FedEx envelope. No return address. Dad's effects. Released post-probate. Jake's doing. Probably. A peace offering wrapped in Pandora's box. Inside. Yellowed letters. His scrawl looping like nooses. The first. Dated my enlistment eve. Rennie, don't do it. The skies'll swallow you like they did your ma's dreams. Stay grounded. For me. Mom's aviation fantasies. Clipped wings from teen pregnancy. Dad's resentment the shears. Deeper in. Manifest scraps. Cartel contacts underlined in red. S for leverage.
S.
Serenity.
Me.
The unwitting key. My clearance is the vault code, heed mine. Rage boiled fresh. But tempered now. Alchemized to strategy. I digitized it all. Cross-fed to a DOJ contact from the bust, loose ends tied. A final nail in any appeals. But the real gut punch? A photo. Me at 5. Perched on his shoulders at an air show. Tiny hands gripping his hair. Both of us grinning skyward at a Blue Angels break. Inked on the back, my little ace. Don't let me down. Betrayals anatomy. Dissected. Love curdled to control. Mocks as manipulations to keep me earthbound. Complicit. Had he pulled the trigger to save me from exposure? Or just silence the threat. Motive blurred in the margins. Controversial decision numero uno. I went public. Not tell-all tabloid, but a TEDx talk at UT Austin, wings over shadows, betrayal and the sky. Stage lights hot as re-entry. Crowd a sea of upturned faces. I paced in slacks and blouse. No uniform armor. My father didn't just mock my dreams. He built them into his nightmare. And I flew through it. Slides ticked. Redacted manifests. The garage blueprint sanitized. No gore. Ending on that flyover clip, crowd gasp audible. Q&A turned feral. Was it vengeance? It was velocity, forward motion. A prof in the front row. All tweed and skepticism. But family? You destroyed yours. I paused. Mic feedback whining. Some families are fortresses. Others, foxholes. I chose air support. Viral overnight. The clip racking millions, pundits praising my raw American grit, critics decrying calculated catharsis. Death threats ping my inbox. Cartel ghosts or dad's old guard. But NCIS screened M. Jake called post-talk. Voice thick, saw it.
Proud?
Hurt, both.
The Jefe?
A Whataburger off 37 in Corpus. Kids in tow, toddler terrorizing fries. The girl tracing jet trails on the window. You flew for her, he said, nodding at mom's namesake. I ruffled her curls. For all of us. Truce held. Fragile as altimeter glass. Back at Kingsville. A nugget washed out, cocky kid named Tyler. All swagger until a hop went pear-shaped. Botched recovery, leaving him puking in the sim. I pulled him aside post-debrief. Ready to cut. Aviation don't tolerate doubt. Tyler. He crumpled. Eyes red. Like your dad.
LT?
Mocked you till you proved him. Word traveled. I froze. Then softened. Rebirth's gift. Empathy unearned.
Nah.
Proved myself. You can too. Controversial? Mentoring the weak link, bending squadron metrics for second chances. CO raised brows. Hayes. You're going soft.
Nah, sir.
Strategic. The climax brewed slow. A squall line on radar. An Oppo researcher for a true crime pod, Empire of Echoes, med. Interview? Your dad's cellmate says he confessed to. Faking your death note. Thinks you're reborn. Chills spidered my spine. Paranoia or pattern. I greenlit it. Mic'd in a sound booth off base. Voice steady as I unpacked the garage ghost. He pulled the trigger. I felt it. Woke up before. The host, a slick millennial with sleeve tats, leaned in, metaphorical, literal as lock-on. Aired to frenzy, conspiracy forums lit up. Serenity haze. Time loop trader? My evals tanked. Transfer whispers to desk duty. Decision 2. Thornier. Leak the letters. Not full blast, but curated drops to the pod. Framing dad as architect, mocks as molding, betrayal as blueprint. Backlash biblical. Navy PR scrambling. Jake furious texts, you're dragging us again. But validation hummed. A vet's widow emailed. Your story freed my silence. Thank you. Threads connected. Dad's VFW scams echoed in her husband's suicide, a pattern of silent sentinels. Twist hit mid-hop. T-45 screaming over the Gulf. Student at controls. Frequency crackled. Ghost. Tower unfriendly inbound. Cartel reprisal. Secure the patch. Heart slammed. Ghosts real now. Dad's old ties gunning for payback. I took the stick. Vectoring evasive. Students gasps tinny. Easy. Kid. Follow my lead. Missiles?
Nah.
Drones. Hobby is cheap but lethal. Buzzing like hornets. We outflew him. Jinking low over waves. Splashdown avoided by inches. Grounded after. Debrief a circus. FBI swarming. My pod leak blamed for the poke. But in the chaos, clarity, the rebirth wasn't magic, it was metaphor. Dad's confession, a madman's map projecting his guilt onto me, the daughter who'd risen to undo him. Cellmate recanted. Pod retracted. But the podcaster cornered me post-debrief. Serenity. Off record, did you die? Rain slicked the tarmac. Sodium lights pooling orange. I grinned. Water beating on my jacket. Every day. And I fly anyway. Reassigned to VR, 51 at North Island, cod haulers. Milk runs to Hawaii. I settled into rhythm. The controversial pilot tamed to transport. Jake's family visited. Beach barbecues with kebabs and kid chaos. Walls crumbling to bridges. You think he'd be proud now, he asked one sunset. Waves gnawing the sand. I sipped my IPA. Horizons swallowing the sun. Pride's earned. Not given. But yeah, maybe. Ending? No tidy bow. I flew on. 600 miles per hour, memories fading to contrails. Dad's shadow just a smudge on the canopy. Speechless? We both were. In the end, him in silence. Me in the roar. Reborn not by bullet, but by choice, the girl who outflew the mocks. Landing not in vengeance, but velocity. Cod hauling suited the ghost in me, long legs over Pacific blues. Pallets of spam and sundries for island outposts. The kind of flying where you could lose yourself in the drone of props and ponder the unponderable. VR-51's ready room smelled of stale coffee and salt-rimed flight logs. A far cry from Hornet heat, but it grounded me. Literally, touch and goes off Ford Island. Pearl's ghosts nodding approval from rusted hulks. Jake's visits became routine, Thanksgiving barbecues in my cramped base quarters. The kids turning my coffee table into a Lego airfield. His wife eyeing me with that wary Virginia politeness. You're good for him. Serenity. Clears the air.
Air.
If only she knew how mine had been choked with exhaust and enmity. The controversy simmered down to embers. But embers burn hot. A congressional hearing loomed, oversight on whistleblower protections in the ranks, my name in fine print. Summoned as Exhibit A. Prep was a grind. JAG suits drilling me on do's and don'ts. Stick to facts. Haze, no family drama. Facts. The bust netted 2.3 mil in assets. 20 indictments. A ripple that dried up cartel pipelines from Norfolk to Nogales. Drama. Dad's letters. Now archived in some FOIA vault. Fodder for grad theses on familial betrayal in military culture. I testified in a wood-paneled room off Capitol Hill. C-SPAN lights bleaching my face. Senators in flag pins firing questions like sidewinders.
LT. Haze.
Did personal vendetta influence your actions?
The chair.
A hawkish dem from Cali. Leaned forward, glasses perched like perches. I paused, water glass sweating in my grip. Sir, vendettas personal. This was procedural threat to national security. Starting at home. Murmurs rippled. Cameras whirring. A GOP firebrand from Texas jumped in. Hell of a American story. Lieutenant. Father turns felon. Daughter drops the hammer from 30,000 feet. But that flyover, cruel or cathartic? Laughter tittered. Tension cracking. I smiled. First real one in months. Cathartic. Senator. And by the regs. Gavel banged adjournment. Handshakes followed, inspiring.
Haze.
But in the cab back to Andrews. Rain sheeting DC. Streets. Doubt crept. Was I catharsis or catalyst? Perpetuating the cycle Dad started? Back west. The squall broke personal. A package arrived unmarked. Postmarked Lorton. Pre-Dad's demise. Inside, a single cassette tape. Labeled for Rennie, truth or dare. Heart thudding. I dusted off an ancient Walkman from storage. Hit play in the dim of my quarters. Pearl Harbor's night hum filtering through vents. Dad's voice crackled. Gravel over static. If you're hearing this,
Kid.
I lost. Knew it from that first breakfast, your eyes.
Different.
Sharper. Like you'd seen the end and come back swinging.
Pause.
Cough wet as regret. Wasn't always the villain. Started with debts, your ma's chemo, Jake's tuition. Small lifts from the VFW tiller. Then the calls from South. Easy money. Used you 'cause you were clean. High enough to blind spots. Tape hissed. His breath ragged. The garage? Not murder.
Mercy.
You found the big one, shipment with your name on it. Framed to take the fall. Cartel don't forgive leaks. They have torched us all. Bullet was quick. Clean. Lie or absolution. My fists clenched. Nails biting palms. But the note, your hand. The mocks? To keep you down. Safe. Flew too close. Rennie. Always did. End tape. Click like a chamber. I hurled the Walkman. Plastic shattering against bulkhead. Sobs wrenching, unexpected. Mercy? The man who'd birthed betrayal now spun its savior? Controversial decision 3. Burn it or broadcast. I drove to Jake's motel, visiting for a conference. Irony's gift. Pounded the door till he yanked it open. Bathrobe askew. What the fuck? Sis. I thrust the tape. Voice raw. Listen. Then decide. We sat on the sagging bed. Kids asleep next door. Static filling the void. His face cycled shock.
Sorrow.
Snarl. Bastard. Mercy my ass, he dragged me in too. Tears tracked his stubble. You believe him?
No.
But it explains the ghost talk. Dawn crept gray. Coffee bitter between us. What now? He asked. I stared out at the harbor. Carriers moored like sleeping giants. We end it. Together. He nodded. Brother reclaimed. The climax? Not skies. But soil, a pilgrimage to the plot. Jake and I in rental Taurus. Texas, plates lost in Virginia clay. Dad's marker, plain slab. Robert Hayes. Beloved father. Weeds choked it. Rain fresh from a squall. Jake knelt. Placing lilies, Mom's favorite. For her. I stood. Wind tugging my jacket. The air show hummed distant now. Andrew's a memory. For us. No words spoken to stone. But in the silence. Release. The mocks as misguided armor. Betrayal a desperate dam against his own drowning. Forgiveness? Not quite. Understanding? Close enough. Twist's tale. The tape wasn't solo. A P.S. Envelope. Unsealed stock tips. VFW script Dad had squirreled. Enough to fund Jake's fresh start. Community college. Clean slate. For the kids, scrawled. Mercy. Twisted. We split it quiet. No fanfare, practical ghosts. haunting forward. Ending landed soft. A carrier grease job. Promoted to LCDR. VR-51's ops officer. Molding haulers into horizons. Jake enrolled in paralegal night classes. Niece sending crayon jets. Anti-fast. The flyover? Folklore now. Told in bars from Oceana to Kingsville, Hayes's hammer. Left the old man gawking. Speechless.
Yeah.
But in quiet moments. Throttled back on long hauls. I'd whisper to the empty cockpit. Missed you.
Dad.
Flawed as fuck. But mine. Reborn not to revenge. But reclaim. The girl who flew over mocks. Landing in a life unchained. 600 miles per hour into whatever dawn broke next. American as it gets. Messy. Mighty. Moving on.